G'day everyone, Paul Stoner, CEO Biggin and Scott, joined today by Daniel Ashton again for December. We're talking about Salesperson month of December. Congratulations.
Thanks again.
But we're sort of mid-January, heading in towards Australia Day. But I just interviewed Ed a moment ago for Sales Office being Richmond for the number of transactions, and what we discussed was how the end of last year looked. And obviously you did well with all the stuff that we spoke about in November, and then what it's looking like right now.
Sure.
So December. Let's for the younger guys watching. We'll just go over how you were dealing with the market. We were talking about a lot longer conversations and all of that sort of stuff, and then because what was desperately missing in December were the buyers. And it seems the last 2 weeks there's a few buyers hanging around again.
Well, we managed to find a couple of those elusive buyers in the back half of December, and then actually all through December. It was an interesting month. We had some big property on for auction, and also some things that had passed in in the previous months. I think November was a very hard slog, and there were a lot of things that passed in, and somehow and thankfully we managed to convince a number of buyers to step up and pay a price which probably resembled something similar to the last market, which is a pretty good effort, given the landscape right now. So so that's really what happened in December. There were a couple of strong auctions, but mainly some properties that had passed in, finally through persistence and patience and a bit of luck, I guess. The right buyer came along and paid a price which the vendors were happy to move at, and thankfully, as I say, not really with too much of a discount from what you would have been expecting in the last market.
Yeah, which is interesting. So for any of the younger guys watching, and even vendors that are watching, the possibility of things taking a little bit longer in this market are real. There's a lot of different conversations, and maybe finance at the end that makes it take as long as it actually does. But the value in the buyer's eyes is their value. So they see things and say, "That's value. I'm happy with that."
That's right, and they all see value at a different level. I mean, each property, has its perks, it has its shortcomings. But that is related to different with each buyer. And there are a lot of buyers out there at the moment that are purely opportunistic buyers. And they're the ones that we're having to let float by in order to find the right one. And like I say, we've been lucky, or we got lucky in a couple of cases where that right buyer did manage to float by. But at the same time, there's a bit of skill in identifying it, and then what do you do once you find them? Because it's all well and good for them to finally walk through the door, but then convincing them to pay a full price in a market where there's a lot of negativity and people probably in their ear telling them to hold on or wait or offer low. That's where the skill came in.
So there's a negativity in the market, which is the press, but then there's the reality of the market, and they're not matching up. So the market has done what it's done. It's done it. So now the matching up of recognising those buyers who are prepared to transact, they're the ones that you just need to deal with. And stay really close. Really close, yeah. Because they do get very frustrated with being stuffed around, and they will move on quickly. But Elsternwick's not a market where you've got 100 of the same sort of homes, so they do stick with you. So you're coming back this year, working just as hard, or you found that there's a few extra buyers there?
I think it's an interesting time, and I've found this for many years, not just in this market, where January is this interesting period where it's a bit of a hiatus in real estate. There's not that much on the market, and there tends to be some buyers out there early, keen, trying to, they've obviously decided that 2019 is their year. So the numbers are certainly inflated at the inspections at the moment in comparison to last year or late last year. And I think that's just a direct reflection of a lack of stock versus the amount of buyers that are out there. So look, coming into the next couple of weeks, typically after Australia Day, we say that's when the market starts to return. There'll be some more property come to the market, and that'll probably even out the numbers, I think. But it's good to see that, well, at least from my accounts and from other accounts I've heard across the city, that there were good attendance at last week's inspections and perhaps the week before as well.
There seems to be a willingness for the vendors to come to market and for the buyers to buy, which is great. I mean, that's lacking.
Yeah, and look, we were always going to get to that point where where buyers were, as I said to you in November, decided that they were just going to get on with it, and I think we're probably getting close to that point now. I think a lot of people may have deferred their buying until 2019, thinking, well, the conditions will be right and that'll be my year. So hopefully, we see a bit of action and people wanting to, step up and actually try and buy these properties.
So the key is to not stop yourself from asking the questions because you think you know what the answer is. Find out what the answer is.
Yeah, I think moving forward, and I've thought about where can I improve this year and what's going to really make the difference, and I think it really comes down to energy and attitude.
Yeah,
I think that's what it comes down to.
Said exactly the same thing.
We need to become influencers.
Yeah.
It's our job to turn or to help turn this market and to make people see that they should be getting on with their lives and they should be buying now, and it's a great time and the market will turn. And they'll be ruining the day if they haven't bought before that happens.
Well, like I put in the email last week, the main question for a buyer or a seller in this market is to say, is 2019 the year that you want to transact?
Absolutely.
Okay, fine, let's make it happen.
Yeah.
Because it is what it is.
Yep.
All right, so January, you're back. Were you back last week or this week?
I was back last week, yes.
You were back last week.
Yeah, trying to get back in the groove.
Yes, yeah. The weather hasn't
been
been too hot. So you're geared up. You've got auctions running into Feb already?
Yeah, so I have 6 that I'm working on. So 3 start this week, or officially next week, but they'll be loaded on this week, and then 3 the week after. So a reasonable amount of stock. Pushing hard to try and get a few more on now. There's a couple that are kind of poised, maybe not. So
waiting for results.
Well, yeah, waiting to see what the mood is like. I think there'll be a little bit of that early on this year, both from buyers and sellers. Trying to assess the mood and confidence levels. So hopefully these 6 start well and give the ones that are potentially coming in behind them the confidence to come on as well.
Yeah, okay. Much questioning around should I be auction or private sale?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean that's definitely a point of discussion at the moment. Look, I mean, from my point of view, I still like the idea of structure of an auction. I mean, we will probably test the sale by date scenario, expressions of interest at some stage this year and see how that goes. Historically, it doesn't work that well.
No, it's a market
in our area.
Market by market.
It's a market by market, and it hasn't typically performed well. But look, I think we'll probably set up for the auction, test the mood, and if we get a similar response to what we did, in November last year, then we'll probably look for an alternative and see how that fares.
Yeah. So if you're in a market which is predominantly private sale or auction, don't think that you're going to be able to change that overnight because the market is used to transacting in a certain way. So work out who you're talking to because they have a familiarity with having done it a particular way. So it's very difficult to get them to understand the other way. And
you're also competing in a market that is, well, in our case, auction orientated. So, the way about, pricing property can be a little bit different, with the auction versus the private sale, a single price versus a range and so on. So it comes down to familiarity as well for buyers and for sellers.
Yeah, true. And I was going to ask you another question about the buyers. Are they putting much pressure on wanting to transact straight away?
It's very early
offers up front.
Very early on for me. I got a pretty strong reaction from one of the properties that was left over from last year. Last week, I had 5 contract requests out of 10 people coming through. People following me up, asking for it, saying they might want to make an offer. I've had a couple of second inspections today already. So quite a bit of action. Not I wouldn't say an offer on the spot, but certainly not holding back or disappearing as I was seeing a lot of last year. It was almost like we were being ghosted by all the buyers towards the end of last year, whereas we're getting response from them now and organising second inspections, so that's all a positive change from what we saw at the end of last year.
Okay, well, we'll have a better idea come Feb and then this first quarter, because I think we're on track with what we've been saying, that last year was the market. It'll all be cleaned up and then we'll have the actual market.
Fingers crossed.
So congratulations again.
Thank you.
Is that 3 months in a row?
I think it might be, yeah. But hopefully next month if I get it again.
Because usually you like being sort of just, but underneath this...
I don't do it. I don't do it on purpose. Unfortunately, the Elston Week market is perhaps not as boisterous with the amount of stock that comes on. So it can be a little bit up and down. So there is a little bit of a roller coaster.
You're consistently there, but
consistently there, but kind of sometimes second, third, sometimes first. But let's see if I can make it all first.
Yes, good. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks, guys.